Okay, here we are. And just like that, episode 8, my recap. I am your guide, Jen Kirkman. I've got the tea. Listen, I fucking loved this episode. This is a legit good episode. Congratulations to the woman who wrote it. I think she also wrote the episode about Seema. As I know, in writers' rooms, it's always a collaboration, so you don't just like sit alone and write it. But this episode, no one said comedy concert. No one said like woke, or there wasn't anyone like freaking out around black people. Well, actually, the black friends characters weren't in this episode, so maybe that's why they weren't. Okay. And it was pretty good. There was some Steve hearing aid annoyance. But overall, I'm like, okay. So I'm just going to take you through the episode, like what happens, just boring style, no commentary. And then I'm going to take my snark character by character, according to like what their stories were. So here just is the episode if you don't watch the show. And so we open on some kind of very small LGBT, did I say P? What am I on? LGBTQIA, gay, trans, rights rally in, I guess, sort of a Washington Square Park in Manhattan. Che is up there doing a speech, not comedy. We see Che, they're up there, and we see Miranda in the audience just so in love. Cynthia Nixon's really good at playing that, by the way. Just like, gosh. And then Che says, thank you to everyone who's here. Thank you to the allies. And we see Brady and his girlfriend, and Miranda sees them, and she's hiding. And Che is clocking that Miranda's doing this because Che knows that Miranda's there. There's literally only 40 people there. I'll get into it in my snark part. And so then Che gets off stage. What was that little, hiding Charlie Chaplin move or something like that? And Miranda's like, well, I saw my kid and I didn't want him to see me here. And Che's like, why not? And she's like, well, I didn't want him to see me here with you. And Che's like, he doesn't know about me? And Miranda's like, no. And Che's basically like, I thought you were in an open marriage. And they say that, we've been fucking for 3 weeks or something like that. So that's the timeline. And I guess Che and Miranda have been having all kinds of sex like every day, I guess, for 3 weeks. I assume in hotels. I don't know. They didn't say. But Miranda's like, well, no, it's not open. And Che's like, are you fucking kidding me? I just assumed it was. And Miranda's like, no, but I don't want to be with him. Like, And Che was like, I'm a lot of things, but one thing I'm not is a homewrecker. And like, get your shit together because no. And I'll get into it in my opinion. I'm just telling you it's happening now. And so Che kind of walks away, and Miranda's like, is this it? I can't do this. Walks away. Miranda's like, oh my goodness, you've seen behind the curtain. Behind the ring light, the Jen Kirkman story. So Miranda's, pretty bummed about that. So now we go to Carrie, and she's in her apartment, and all of her clothing is on those kind of racks on wheels. And unless I missed it, but I watched it twice, unless I missed it, my little blondie pieces need touching up. They're not blonde enough. Unless I missed it, I don't know what Carrie's doing. Is she getting these things ready for storage? By the end of the episode, we realized that is what she was doing. I thought she was giving them away. Like, I don't know what was going on. She's just kind of breaking down her clothes or her friends. I know, I like it. I like looking at her apartment. I fucking love her wallpaper. I love looking at her clothes. It's just sort of like, good, stay there. Stay there. And so Seema comes over with a bottle of wine, and Carrie kind of shows her her greatest hits, and she shows her, oh, look at this feather dress that I have, and it's the dress she wore in Paris with Petrovsky when she was waiting all night for him, and he was like really late for their date, and she's kind of sitting on the bed, and it's all spread out. So it's an iconic dress. So they have a conversation about that, and then they look out Carrie's window, and Carrie sees her young neighbor on the stoop. maybe 20-something girl, and she's with a guy, and they're kind of kissing, and Seema and Carrie are looking at them, and Seema's like, ooh, he's sexy, and this whole thing's sexy, and Carrie's like, yeah, she's always looks fabulous, but I don't understand how she can afford the good apartment below me, because this girl lives in a way bigger place than Carrie, and it's super fancy. And Seema says, oh, she's probably a Russian hooker. It's a big thing in the real estate scene, and she's not wrong. So Carrie's like, oh, okay. So we get introduced to the fact that Carrie is this new downstairs neighbor who's young, and now it's later that night, and the young downstairs neighbor has like 4 or 5 friends outside. They're drinking beer on the stoop. They're laughing. I kind of like this because the stoop is iconic for Carrie. She used to do all of her dramatic business on the stoop. Not really have like hangouts with more than one person, but breakups, makeups, first dates, kissing, smoking. And so it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's not like her stoop. That's like the stoop for the building. And so in the scene with Seema, Carrie says, you can't smoke in my house, because she's like, I smoked a cigarette in here the other day and just everything smells, and I forgot how much that sucks. So Carrie says she smokes 1 cigarette a day, and she does it while wearing kitchen gloves and a million scarves to cover up her hair because of the smell, which makes sense because they had leaked all of these photos of Carrie's outfits on set, and there was this one where she's wearing old house robes and scarves in her hair and kitchen gloves and smoking, and I was like, has she lost her mind? So it's really just, it's her smoking outfit so that she doesn't smell. So, okay. And I thought that was kind of cute and a great explanation, and I was glad it wasn't a crazy outfit. Sorry, my opinion is getting mixed up in this recap. So Carrie calls Bobby Lee, the guy from our podcast who I know as comedian Bobby Lee, at 2:30 in the morning, and he's awake, and he's in his studio apartment, I guess, with his girlfriend, and she's sewing. And Carrie says, I'm sorry, you're the only person I can call at 2:30 in the morning who I know will answer. And he's like, it's kind of weird that you called, because only my grandmother used to call me, and she's been dead for 5 years. So, a little generational thing there, even though Bobby Lee in real life is 50. I mean, he doesn't look 50, whatever that means. So maybe they're trying to play him as younger. I'm not really sure. And so he's like, yeah, my girlfriend's just sitting here sewing. And Carrie's like, you have a girlfriend? And she sews. And he's like, yeah, I've got a whole life. And she's like, oh, all right. And she's like, well, how do I ask my neighbor to shut up without sounding like old and uncool? I actually forget what Bobby tells her. And so they get off the phone, and then Carrie just opens her window and says, come on, like just that, and then the young girl's like, I'm sorry. And it's it, but, so the next day, Carrie and Miranda, so the next day, Carrie's at home. She's got like a face mask on, like a green goopy mask. She's in her glamorous at-home outfit that still has heels. And the girl knocks on the door and says, I'm so sorry. That was so rude of me. I just want to apologize for, waking you up last night. And Carrie's like very concerned with looking young and cool. And she's like, oh, it's not because I was asleep. It's because I was writing. I'm a writer. So, and it was, I stay up all night. And so the girl's like, oh, okay, well, thanks. And then she leaves. So now we're with Charlotte and Harry, and they're in the bathroom of their apartment. And Charlotte is trying to get Harry to wear an Aura ring, which I have one, and I love it. And it's a fitness ring. Like this counts my steps. I go to an app on my phone, and it tells me how deep I slept, what my heart rate was, what it was doing, how much energy I exert during the day, my steps, my calories burned. It's wild. It's wild. So Harry says, I don't want to wear a fitness ring. And she's like, babe, men your age, they have to start thinking about their health, blah, blah. He's like, okay, well, if you're going to give me a ring, do it properly. And so she gets on one knee, and it's like a fake. She's like, Harry, will you wear this ring? And he's like, I will. And so she puts it on him. Really cute, I think. And then he says, well, are we going to seal the deal? And she's like, do we have time? And he's like, yeah. So she just starts unzipping his pants as she's kneeling down, like she's going to blow him, which I guess is sealing the deal on putting a ring on someone, not just like, more chaste sex, but okay. And so all of a sudden, her daughter, Lily, walks in, and Charlotte's like, ah! And she slams the door, and it hits Lily in the head and actually gives her a little bruise. But Harry's dick is out. We see it. We see his dick. I don't know if it's a prosthetic. I assume it is because it's through his pants, and usually that's what they do when someone wants to be in a prosthetic. So I'm not quite sure what Lily saw or didn't, but Charlotte immediately comes out in the hall and says, I'm so sorry, Lily, that I reacted that way. I was actually checking your dad's penis for cancer, and I just didn't want to worry you, and that's why I slammed the door on your face. and Lily seems to believe it. She's like, oh, okay. And then, so now Charlotte's talking with the girls, which I love. I love that we're back to, I did something, now I'm talking with the girls, right? So, oh, and by the way, when Carrie yells down to the neighbor, can you shut up? They're like, sorry, ma'am. And they call her ma'am. And I enjoy, like, that's just a detail. I'll talk about it later. So Charlotte's talking with the girls, and she says, you know, I can't believe I reacted so violently, like hit Lily in the face. She's like, and I'm so mad because I really wanted to be honest about sex and like talk to my kids about it in a way that my parents never did with me, and I don't want to shame them, and I want them to know that I have a sex life. And then the girls get into this whole discussion. You still blow Harry? They can't believe it. And Charlotte's like, yeah. So then we see Miranda and Carrie taking a walk through, oh, I forget the name of it. The Chelsea, I'm brain dead. And Chelsea Markets, and they're in this shop, and Carrie's like, should I buy brownies to say sorry? It's a shop called like Fat Witch or something, or Fit Witch. It's like all sweets and foods, but it's like there's a witch. She's like, I'm gonna get these blondie brownies and give them to her because it says like blonde witch. And Carrie's like, that's me, the old witch. Now, I don't know why she feels she has to apologize to her neighbor who already apologized to her and they had a nice moment, but okay. So Miranda says to Carrie, I'm going to ask Steve for a divorce. And Carrie's like, wow. And Miranda said, you know, I'm just not happy. And Miranda's like, I want to be alone. And Carrie says, you know, alone in reality is a lot different than alone in, you know, your wishful thinking. And Miranda says, well, I want to be with Che. And I can't be with Che unless I'm not with Steve. And Carrie's like, does Che want to be with you? And so then Miranda runs and finds Che. Miranda says to Che, am I crazy? Because I think I'm in love with you. And is it mutual? And Che says, you're not crazy. I'm in love with you too. And Miranda's like, oh my God, yay. And Che's like, but listen. And Miranda's like, no, I know. I'm going to end it with Steve. And Che's like, no, but I'm not traditional. And Miranda's like, that's great. I don't want traditional. I don't want tradition. I'm going to talk to Steve, and we love each other, and Che is headed to Cleveland for a gig. And Miranda says something like, and just go to Cleveland and okay, like we're in love or something like that. So now we know what she's going to do. So then there's a scene where Charlotte and Lily are in a restaurant Charlotte took her out to lunch to talk about the sex thing and to tell the truth about what she was doing with Harry's penis. And they're both on their phones. And Charlotte says, can you put your phone down? And Lily says, well, you're on your phone too. And she's like, you're right. We both spend too much time on our phones. Let's put our phones down. And Lily's like, I need to go get a straw. And then Charlotte's like, the waiter can bring you one. And she's like, that's gross. And gets up and gets her own straw. So while she's gone, Charlotte sees this notification pop up on Lily's phone. And she looks, and it's this Instagram account of Lily's that's not her normal account. It's like a second one, a more private one, or a private one. And it's Lily. It's really not a sexual, I mean, she's in like workout clothes. I don't know, like doing something a little suggestive, like putting her, like kind of tucking her hand into her, like I've got workout clothes on, into her thing here. But it's not like, there's no nudity or anything like that. So she's in a tank top. And Charlotte's, but she's got kind of a come hither look, I guess. And Charlotte's like, and Lily comes back and Charlotte's like, what is this? And who is Bob 55? And is he 55 years old? And who's looking at this? And who is this for? And what's that look for? And Lily's like, it's a private account and you shouldn't even be looking at it. And Charlotte's like, you're right, I don't want to shame you. And she just leaves. And Charlotte's like, we don't walk away from each other in this family. And so cut to Lily is at Carrie's apartment, which again has been turned into some kind of clothes gallery. So Lily's looking through her clothing and Carrie's on the phone with Charlotte, and Lily's saying, tell her I'm not coming home. And Carrie takes the phone into the bathroom, and she says to Charlotte, you know, Charlotte sends her a photo of the private account, and Carrie sees it, and she's like, look, you know, I wore workout clothes when I was her age. And Charlotte's like, but she doesn't even work out. And, you know, it's a sexy whatever. And Carrie's like, look, she's in my house. She's looking around at my clothing. I think she's just trying to find herself. Like, what's her style? Who does she want to be, you know? And I really don't think it's like something more. And Charlotte's like, okay. But Lily ends up sleeping over Carrie. She's in Carrie's bed with her. And I forgot that, like, they do have kind of this almost, I think Carrie might be her godmother or something. Because she's, yeah, I feel like I remember that. Anywho, so, or maybe she's the other ones, doesn't matter. But I do remember that they've had some kind of bond in the past, but even though Lily hasn't been, I don't know, whatever. It's not that crazy. She just sleeps over Carrie's. It's just, so they're in the same bed, and Carrie can hear all this crazy music downstairs, and she looks over, and Lily's totally asleep. So Carrie goes downstairs, and before that, she tried to deliver the muffins to the girl downstairs, like earlier in the day, and this guy just in a towel, like a young, you know, Hawkeye in a towel, opens the door, and Carrie's like, I wanted to give this to whatever her name is, these brownies as an apology, and he's like, oh, we don't eat sugar, and then Carrie drops the brownies, like, oh, sorry, of course you don't, and then he drops his towel, and she's like, keep them. And we just see a full frontal nudity. Second penis of the show. It's just like, whoa. So Carrie, you know, runs upstairs. So now it's, you know, we've already had the Lily and Carrie scenes. Now Carrie's in bed, goes downstairs, and loud music, unts, unts, unts. You know, it's 2:30 in the morning. And there's like cups and glasses and half-filled wine glasses and like, totally a party had been going on. All of that is in the, you know, little enclave, like, it's not a lobby, but like, oh fuck, you know, the downstairs, Carrie's apartment. And so she, the door is kind of open of the young girl's apartment, and she sees it, and it's like kind of cheesy, like lots of leopard and like, I mean, I love it, but like, you know, fuzzy things, and guess it could be a Russian hooker is what I'm saying. And she sees the girl like fabulous in like a sparkling dress, like laying on the couch asleep with an empty champagne glass. And Carrie kind of looks around. Nobody's there. She turns the music off. She kind of looks at this girl. Girl's breathing. She's moving. And Carrie looks at her name on a FedEx package. Then shuts the door and goes back upstairs. So then the next day, Lily and Charlotte have a talk in Lily's bedroom. And Charlotte's like, I wanted to talk to you about the phone. I don't want to shame you. And I think it's great that you're comfortable with your body. She's like, it's just that when I was 15, we weren't comfortable with our bodies. And so this is like, I want to protect you. And Lily's like, Mom, it's only 14 people on my account, and it's all my girlfriends and then my friend's little brother. And Charlotte was like, okay, that makes me feel better. And then that's it. There's no like, don't do it, you know. And then she says, now, about what I was doing with Daddy in the bathroom, do you have any questions? And Lily says, yeah, does he have cancer? And Charlotte goes, no, baby, he's fine. And she hugs her. And I guess we get the sense that they didn't have the sex talk, which I still think they should. But whatever. So that's that. She had the talk that needed to be said, which is, you know, do whatevs with your own body and your own Instagram. I don't want to shame you. So then we see, there's very few like sets and places in this episode, which is, again, I'm not complaining. Okay, so then we're back at Miranda and Steve's house. So Miranda comes home, and Steve's on the couch watching TV as usual, and she's talking loud. She's like, hey, do you have both hearing aids in? And he's like, nah, I got one in. And she's like, well, I want to talk. And he's like, you can talk in this ear. And she's like, I really don't want to yell it. And he's like, all right, it's somewhere in the couch cushion. I'll get to that. So he finds his other hearing aid, puts it in. And Miranda says, give me your hands. And he's like, oh, shit, this is bad. And then, what are you going to ask me for a divorce? And she's like, well, and he's like, I was kidding. Are you really going to ask me for a divorce? And she's like, Steve, I'm not happy. And he's like, kind of like, what's happy? And she's like, well, you know, and he's like, listen. Basically, he says, the last 3 years have been like so peaceful in that we go do our things at work or whatever we do during the day. We come home, we talk about the kid, we watch movies, we eat ice cream. Like, it's nice. And like the whole relationship has been so up and down and so much drama. And like the whole time, you know, you kept thinking I wasn't enough for you or good enough for you. And then you decide that I was kind of enough for you. He's like, but I have been hanging in here the whole time. Just, he says like waiting for you, but just supporting you through all your trying to decide about me things. And he's like, this is what I want. Like, I just want to sit around and watch TV or whatever. And she's like, I want more. And he's like, well, what's more? And she's like, I don't know. I want more sex and more discovery, more intimacy and more doing things. And I don't think we're old. You know, I don't want to sit on the couch every night. And he's like, okay. And so he's like, I'm too old to fight you on this. So this is what you want. Okay. And then she says, I've met someone. And then they cut out of that scene. And Carrie is on the phone with Miranda. And Miranda's saying, I did it. I told him everything. And Carrie's like, wow. And then we see Miranda's in a cab. And she's like completely like manic and just, And she's like, Carrie, my life is a rom-com. And Carrie's like, okay, I don't know who this is, you know. And Miranda's like, and Carrie's like, well, where are you going? And she's like, I'm going to Cleveland. I'm getting on a plane to go to Cleveland to surprise Che. Ooh. And then we cut to just a scene of Carrie wearing the big feather dress from the Paris episodes of Sex and the City season 6, sorry, Tion. And she's eating popcorn and she's like, you know, some things weren't meant to put in storage. I didn't really, and just like that, I decided some things weren't meant to put in storage. And I'm kind of like, I don't really get, like, I didn't even get originally that all of these clothes everywhere was about storage. And I don't know how that tied in the rest of the episode, like with everyone else's stories, but what, fine. You know what I mean? Just like, fine. So that was pretty much what happened. That's the episode. So now we'll get into my commentary. We'll take it character by character. Okay, so we've got Seema coming over to Carrie's apartment because Carrie has set up her apartment like some kind of rack sale. She's got racks of all her clothes as though she's opening a museum to herself. I don't know what's going on. By the end of the episode, we find out that she was looking to see what should go into storage. It wasn't that clear. I feel like she was just like, look it, I'm fully embracing my narcissism. I put all my racks of clothes out. I do not go out and see friends anymore. They come to my house and we talk about my best outfits. And I'm like, you know what? That's great. I love to see that. So Seema comes over with a bottle of wine, and it's not lost on me that the last time someone came over to Carrie's house while she was deciding what to do with her clothes in that apartment was Samantha in the first movie. A lot of shit went down in this apartment, and Carrie's like, ah! And Samantha holds up a bottle of champagne, and then she holds up another one because she's fun. Seema brings over some wine, less fun than 2 bottles of champagne. So once again, nobody can ever replace Samantha. But Seema and Carrie talk about clothes, and the whole time I'm thinking, if anybody is going to become a late-in-life lesbian, why didn't they give this story to Carrie? I mean, here's the thing. Carrie doesn't want to have sex again because she just can't imagine any other dick but Mr. Biggs. Okay, so she doesn't ever have to have dick again. Seema's single at 50. She can't find anybody. Like, girl, give up. Maybe you're not even straight and you haven't even been able to like really look at that, you know? Because you say it's because, you know, of your career, but I never see you working. So why don't you and Carrie, I mean, there's wine and there's trying on clothes. Like, no one else sees like a perfect moment to be like, oh, help me zip this up. Like, oh, I'm a little drunk. And then they just make out and just, now we're just into late in life lesbianism. I don't know. I don't see anywhere else for them to go. So anyway, her whole story this episode is just about her clothes. And it's really just about that feather dress that she wore when Petrovsky was late for the 9th time in Paris. You know, they were supposed to go to dinner and she's in the bed just looking like, you know, a big swan. And then, you know, she's just asleep. Like, anyway, so that's kind of Carrie's storyline, is she's kind of just there for other people in this episode, which I guess that's what is so shocking. Like, she lets Charlotte's daughter Lily stay over. And she's like, I have to go. I think it just dawned on me. She's like actually there for other people. Anyway, so Carrie's got this downstairs neighbor. She can't figure it out. What's going on with this girl? And Seema's like, she's a Russian hooker. And Carrie has to call Bobby Lee from the podcast at 2:30 in the morning. And I guess the conceit is that he's young, and so he'll know how she can talk to the young people on the stoop. And I'm like, Bobby Lee is 50. I know Bobby Lee. Like, I mean, he doesn't look 50, whatever that means. So I don't know, but I just think it's, also, you don't like call, and he's basically like, no one's called me except my grandmother, you know, because young people, they don't use the phone. And it's like, what? He's obviously supposed to be in his 20s if she's calling him for advice on how to talk to a young person on the stoop. But wouldn't she call, like, I don't know, couldn't you just go to Quora or something? Is there a Reddit thread? Like, use your fucking computer, girl. Also, what do you think you're gonna do? Like, open the window and say something like a cool word people say? Like, just say, hey guys, or just call the cops. I guess, you know, I don't know, just open the window and just say, sorry to be a dork, but it's so loud, you know? Or also just get a white noise machine. I mean, I live next to a fire station, and I put this white noise machine in my window, like on the bottom on the windowsill. Like, I can't hear shit at night. So I'm just saying, that's a lot louder than people on a stoop. Or actually, maybe not. Have you ever heard drunk girls with high-pitched registers? Like, ah! You know. Anyway, I just thought it was weird that she had to call. And then Bobby's like, I'm here with my girlfriend who's, you know, makes clothing. And Carrie's like, I didn't know you had a girlfriend. He's like, I have a whole life. And I'm like, then why don't you talk about that on the God-awful podcast where all you do is press buttons that say woke moment and just make like weird jokes? Like, you've been doing a podcast for months and months that's about talking about sex and relationships, and he doesn't tell a real story about his real girlfriend. And then also, what about the social media woman that like rolled in her wheelchair and was like, get your fucking socials up? And then they had a fight because they have this on again, off again thing. And now he suddenly has this like girlfriend that lives with him. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on. And I'm always confused when we need to have outside characters. Like the last thing I ever expected was like, oh, Bobby Lee, you know, the comedian, you know, forever. He's on the new Sex and the City. It's like, okay. Anyway, so she calls him. I actually forget the advice. She's like, blah, blah, and then they call her ma'am, and she's like, ma'am. And listen, it's an old, outdated thing to be like bummed when someone calls you ma'am, but I like that they didn't harp on it too much. It's not like they had a scene where the kids were like, ma'am, and she was like, ma'am, and then cut to them at lunch. She called me ma'am. Well, I like ma'am. I think it's a sign of respect. And Cynthia's like, really? I think it's a sign that you're old. And then Samantha would say something funny like, I only let young people call me, you know, for sex, you know, something like that. Who cares if they call you ma'am as long as they're calling out your name, or, you know, whatever she would say. But so I'm glad it didn't become a whole thing, because it's like we've seen that on TV before. And also, you know, there's no good word besides ma'am. It's like sir, madam. Isn't ma'am like an abbreviation for madam? Am I right about that? But what are you gonna say, lady? Like Jerry Lewis, lady? You know, you're just like, sorry, miss. Miss is fine. It's a little weird, but, oh, sorry, dude. I mean, you can say dude for everything. Anyway, so then Carrie has to go shopping for brownies to give to this young person as a sorry. I really don't understand it. I really think this moment was one big advertisement for this store called Fat Witch, which is, I think, in the Chelsea market. It's like, why don't they just be like, brought to you by Fat Witch? So anyway, she buys the brownies. She goes downstairs to give to the girl. She sees the guy with his towel off. His penis falls out. And she's like, oh my God, you know. And it is the second penis of the show. Again, great job, everybody, with the penises. I think this was a real person's penis. So then at the end of the episode, this girl knocks on, oh, I forgot the most important part before is, okay, so Carrie hears a noisy party and she goes downstairs and her neighbor's door is open. And Carrie looks around at this girl's apartment, and we are thinking like, oh, she could be a Russian hooker. Like, it's kind of like cheesy, like lots of leopard and stuff. Not that I wouldn't decorate it that way. And we see the girl fabulously asleep with a sequin dress on and an empty champagne flute in her hand. And Carrie's first trying to turn the music down. I'm like, Carrie, have you learned nothing when you walk into apartments where there are bodies in a questionable state of aliveness? Why do you always do the thing you're not supposed to do first? She's like, oh, Big's dying. Let me run to him instead of call 911. You know, oh, I see this girl that might be suffering from alcohol poisoning on the couch. Is she breathing? Let me turn down the music first. But then we see the girl kind of move and we know she's alive. But Carrie then just like looks at her name on a FedEx, like completely violates her privacy just so she can get the girl's name. And then she Googles her. So then she just like shuts the door and leaves. And I'm like, bitch, make sure she's not going to puke in her sleep. She's laying backwards. She's now laying on her back, like Jimi Hendrix style, like put her face down or wake her up and say, how much did you have to drink? I'm so sorry. Your door was open. I'm worried about you. Do you need to throw up? I'll hold your hair. Something. Like, Carrie, you're going to leave another person dead. So the girl doesn't die though. So then Carrie goes upstairs and then later on, she hears the girl having a fight the next morning or some morning with this guy whose penis we saw earlier. And she's like, you fucked all of Manhattan. He's like, whatever. And he's like, you're a psycho. And she's like, I'm not a psycho. And she's like, if you come back here, I'm going to call the cops on you. And he's like, the cops don't come anyway. And he leaves. And Carrie's just standing there in the, like on the stairs. And the girl goes into her apartment. And then she comes back out and she's like, I'm so embarrassed. And Carrie's like, it's all right. And she's like, just sounds like New York dating. And in that moment, why wouldn't you go, I'm Carrie Bradshaw. I had a column about sex and dating and love in the 90s and the 2000s. I have all these books about it. I'm famous. I'm sorry. I know younger people don't know a lot about what went on before them, but why don't you fucking know who I am? You can talk to me. This is my wheelhouse. Like, I would be busting at the seams at that point, but Carrie just kind of keeps it together. And the girl goes, you're cool. And Carrie's like, it's like, you are cool, Carrie. You don't need this little dipshit to tell you. But it turns out that girl is like a famous jewelry designer who just moved here from LA. So that's kind of fun. I don't know what we're going to do with this, but I like that Carrie has like a younger woman to hang out with instead of like her fucking friends that was talking about their kids. It's like, yeah, go hang out with a 22-year-old and learn about jewelry. Get yourself a necklace or something. Maybe she'll make you a real Carrie necklace, like that's made out of good shit, you know? Anyway, so there's that Carrie plot. Then Carrie, in one scene, she says to Seema about the feather dress. She's like, I've worn it once in Paris. She doesn't go into like how that's like actually the saddest story ever. And then once sitting alone at home for fun, eating an entire thing of Jiffy Pop. And I'm like, are you not supposed to eat an entire thing of Jiffy Pop? It's like this big. How would you ever not eat the entire thing? I mean, I could see if it was like an entire gallon of ice cream and go, oh yeah, that's a lot in one sitting. Even a pint. like pint is sort of like, who's going to put half a pint away? But it was just so weird, like an entire thing of Jiffy Pop. Okay. You would just go eating Jiffy Pop. You would, that's my problem. It's like eat whatever, but like an entire thing again. Okay. Even the I'm not talking about the snack size bags. I'm talking about the normal bag that you put in the microwave. You can eat the whole thing. So anyway, at the end of the episode, Carrie's sitting in her window with the thing, you know, the feather dress on, eating her Jiffy Pop. And I'm like, ooh, the entire thing, go off. And then she says something like, not all things are meant to be put in storage. And I was like, again, I didn't even know this episode was about storage, but okay. Like, what is the analogy with the other characters? Like, are we putting Steve in storage because him and Miranda are divorcing? Like, what's going into storage exactly? Harry's penis, now that it was revealed to his daughter, like he's going to put it back in his pants. Like, what? I don't get the through line with storage. Like, usually the show used to have a through line, right? That everybody had their thing semi-relating to that topic. Okay, so now we have Charlotte and Harry, and you know, I really like them. I like that she still blows him. I like it's weird that the women friends were like, you don't blow Harry anymore? And it's like, well, no wonder Steve just wants to sit on the couch wearing hearing aids, you know, and no wonder, you know, Big died because you didn't blow him, I guess, and he had to get excitement somewhere. He goes on the Peloton, so blow your husbands, everybody, right? So Charlotte gives Harry an Aura ring. I have one. They're great. And she's like, you know, you got to start measuring your health. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, men your age need to start worrying about their heart or whatever, something like that. I would have gotten my husband an Aura ring the second Big died. It's like, Charlotte, you're trying to kill your husband by like, let's wait a few months. Like, maybe your heart's bad too. Being a widow looks kind of glamorous. I'm just kidding. So anyway, but gets the Aura ring again, and he's like, I don't want to wear a fitness ring. And she's like, it's amazing. You hook it up to your phone. Now, I don't know, is this more product placement? I will schlep for the Aura ring. Schlep, that's not the word. I like the Aura ring. It is freaky though, because when I look at my phone, it tells you, it'll be like your heart rate went really low last night, Jen. It went down to like 52 beats a minute. I'm like, what? Why? Because that's not supposed to be that low. And my heart rate runs kind of high anyway. And I've had it checked out and it's fine. So like the fact that it's dipping so low, I'm like, I don't know what to do about it. I just know it. I'm telling you in this video. So, you know, you got to get the Aura. You got to get the Aura it's not Aura like my aura, it's O-U-R-A. Anyway, so he's like, if you're going to give me a ring, you got to present it. So she puts it on him like they're getting married. And he's like, time to seal the deal. And she's like, do we have time? And I'm like, I literally didn't know that blowing someone was sealing a deal when you get engaged or whatever, you know. But then again, I'm divorced, so maybe, you know. But, you know, she kneels down and starts to blow him. And Lily comes in and she slams the door in her face. I mean, it's quite intense. And part of me is like, you know, that's what you get for having that stupid piano recital where Big died because Carrie had to go to that. And that's what you get for picking up Carrie's phone when Big was trying to call when he was nervous about the wedding. You could have prevented that too. So I feel like Lily just paid for some sins there. But anyway, I don't know if she sees Harry's penis or not because I was too busy looking at it going, oh my God, he's got a beautiful penis. It's just absolutely perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Now, I don't know if it's his real penis or if it was, I think it's a prosthetic because it was coming out of his pants and that's usually what they do when it's a prosthetic. But you know what? God bless you, Evan Handler. I bet his real penis is that nice too. You can just tell with some people. A lot of people don't know this about shorter Jewish guys. They're the ones who got all the penises. I mean, they don't have multiple ones, but. Okay, so what else was I saying? I don't know. It's the penis. I'm not even like into penises, but it just sort of, when you see one, you think about it and you go, "Why? I don't see that on TV a lot." But use it sparingly. We had 2 whipped out at us in this episode. And I was like, slow down, you know. But I liked this episode because when she talked to her daughter about sex, it was like a good reason to talk to your kid. It was like, oh, this is what makes the show good is yeah, you do have to talk to your kid about like taking sexy pictures and they're putting it on Instagram, and you just kind of want to make sure that they're okay and not, over sexualizing themselves or having creepy guys come onto them. It was like realistic and it was good. And it was just like Charlotte was just saying like, look, I don't want to shame you, but like as a mom, I gotta ask these things. It was just kind of easy and over and quick, and yeah, I don't know. I have no complaints in that department. I actually really like Charlotte. The actress who plays her, Kristen Davis, was back to pronouncing words correctly. I don't know if she's been like drunk in some episodes or on some meds or something. Somebody was saying they think that she's going through perimenopause and they're making her talk weird. I'm like, no, that's really just not it. I think the actress is something's happening. But I liked that subplot. I was like, good for them. They've always been my favorite couple. And I like to see that they're thriving. And I like to see that, they're blowing each other in bathrooms, or, she's blowing him. And I'm hoping he's returning the favor. I'm sure he is. We know Harry's a fucking good guy. We know he's a good guy. Okay. I think that was it with those characters. Yeah, they just let Charlotte have some fun and actually care about things that are normal, like her daughter being kind of provocative on Instagram. And then, Lily went to sleep at Carrie's, which again, it's interesting. I think they're trying to set up that there's this like godmother dynamic, but it's funny that Carrie can even look her in the face and be like, I went to your recital. Just like, don't feel bad. But like when I went, my husband died. So yeah, no, it's fine. I'm just saying, isn't it funny that if I hadn't gone, I probably would have been able to give him the nitro pill and then call 911. So yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, you're obviously a very gifted piano player, but it's just so funny that like, weirdly, like I'm a grown-ass woman, I come to your recital. I mean, why did I so regret it. Anyway, it's so great to spend this quality time with you. Of course you can sleep over here if you're mad at your mom. I'm not at all thinking about the fact that it's your fault my husband's dead. It's because it's not really, is it? But it's not, you know what I mean? It's funny how things can be like that. So of course, sleep here. That's what I would be like if I were Carrie. Che Diaz and Miranda giving me some drama. Finally, just, oh my God, this is what I live for. I'm in suspense. Okay. So we start on the whole show, a whole episode starts on like an LGBTQIA rally thing in New York City. Che is on stage and I'm going, oh no, don't make me hear comedy concert again. What's going on? And Che's saying, it's the revolution and the evolution, and great. I'm all on board with the message. What I'm not on board with is that this scene was shot like a Christmas tree lighting in a Hallmark Christmas movie filmed in Toronto. There's 40 people kind of spread out. And then all of a sudden, as Che's talking, Che's saying, welcome to our allies out there, and Miranda's out there and she's giggling like a buffoon, and then we just see Brady and his girlfriend. There's literally 10 people at this thing, and we see Brady and his girlfriend, like the two allies that are there. Oh, what a coincidence. Come on, when is that happening? And Miranda runs away and Che clocks it, and then afterwards, like, I guess Brady and his girlfriend leave, I don't know, to go fuck with their lube in the Brooklyn apartment. At least they got outside. I mean, that's nice. And so anyway, Miranda brings, 2 iced coffees and she hands it to Che. And Che's like, what were you doing? Like, leaving like that. And Miranda's like, oh, my kid was here and I didn't want him to see me. And Che's like, why? And Miranda's like, well, I didn't want him to see me with you, And Che's like, they don't know about me? And Miranda's like, no. And Che goes, you're not in an open marriage? Now, I'm like, oh my God, I'm 100% on Che's side. Now, I know I've called her a sexual harasser of her employee, Carrie, by fingering her friend in her house, which a lot of you disagree with me on. And I know I've said Che is a narcissist and a bad comedian, and all of that is true. But in this moment, I'm like, Che's right. Che's got whatever, a lot of alternative types. Che is doing the sex, having the fun with a lot of people, and Che probably has had situations with people in open marriages, and they just assumed that that's what Miranda's situation was. Now, as a writer, this drives me crazy because I guess 3 weeks have gone by and the two of them have been fucking the whole time and lots of fun and all that. for me, someone like Che, who's very clear on the sexual stuff, I think would have had a conversation with Miranda saying, no, you're married. Is this an open marriage? What's going on? But maybe not. Like, we've all been there where we've assumed things about people that we're not even trying to see someone through rose-colored glasses. We're just like, oh, I know they probably wouldn't do this thing. Unless, like, I don't know. I believe that it didn't come up, but I also, that if I was the writer, that logic would drive me crazy. But I decided to let it go because I don't really care. It was a great scene. And so Miranda's saying, no. And Che's like, And I agree with Che. Don't come here with this straight woman experimental fucking shit. Like, I'm not your, even though you think you're in love with me and you like the sex, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me or Steve. It's not fair to either person. And so Che says, no, one thing I am is not a homewrecker. And she's like, I'm a lot of things. And I'm shouting at the TV, a bad comedian, a narcissist, a pothead who smokes bowls. That's weird. But she says, Miranda says, I want to tell him. And Che's like, yeah, well, do that. Get your shit together. And, but I got to walk away. And Miranda's like, really? And she's like, what about all the sex? And Che goes, yeah, really? I'm sorry. I don't do this. Like, this ends now, and Che walks off. And I'm like, yes, this is the drama. And part of me really didn't know where this was going to go, because Miranda's talking about it with her friends, and I think Charlotte said something like, but you and Steve always do this, you always have these ups and downs and these periods where you think you aren't into him. And I thought maybe Miranda would talk to Steve and maybe they would end up having an open marriage or something, or maybe they would actually get back together or something, or Miranda would realize, oh, it wasn't about Che at all. I just needed to tell you I was unhappy and now I'm confused and don't know what I want, but I know I need to be alone and figure it out. I thought any of those things were possible. I actually did not think what happened was going to happen. So I was delightfully surprised that they actually just went there. They went the most dramatic route where we're just watching and going, oh, Miranda's going to get crushed. And you know what? Maybe she needs to. So whatever it is, I think that Miranda is I think Miranda is naively thinking, I know Che's not traditional, but I think Miranda thinks Che will just be with her, or like, no, I know Che's free to do whatever they want, be with other people, but like secretly hoping they won't. I don't know, but you can tell, like, it's kind of cool to watch people in their 50s go through this, because it's like, you don't ever grow out of that shit when you really fall for someone, and you're just like, I don't want to acknowledge like what they're trying to say to me because that feels so good. It's fun to see that. And so Miranda goes to talk to Steve, and it's just like, I'm holding up my justice for Steve sign. He's sitting there on the couch. They can't even have him sit like in a hot way, just like, hey, he's just like bad posture, on the couch. Shut up, my stove's beeping. All right, I know. Oh my God, it's overreacting to this timer I set. Fucking A. Shut up. Yeah, it's over, I get it. Stop. God, a girl just tries to heat up some potatoes. Everything goes crazy. Anyway, so Miranda's like, Steve, we gotta talk. And he's like, okay. And she's like, do you have your hearing aids in? And he's like, I got one of them in, so you can just talk to me in this ear. And she's like, I don't really want to yell what I'm going to say. And he's like, okay, let me get the other hearing aid. It's in the couch here somewhere. You know how expensive those things are? He's not going to just have it be in the couch somewhere. I mean, first of all, hearing aids, the technology of them now is so insane. It's not a thing you think about every fucking second. Like, people with hearing aids is not their fucking identity. You put it on, you hear better, you go about your life. That's the point of them. We're acting like it's like 1700s technology. You know what I mean? It's like, are people who are hard of hearing offended by this? Because I'm offended on behalf of you. And again, we don't need to make Steve look like a bumbling fool with hearing problems to make us root for Miranda. I honestly, even though I don't like Miranda, I'm rooting for her. I understand what she means. A lot of women go through this where they're just like, whether they go and become fluid or bi, whatever they're doing, there's a moment in a marriage where you're going, so you're cool to just stay on the couch? And the guy's like, yeah. And you're like, oh, I can't. I don't know what I gotta do, but I gotta do. And I can't, and I don't want to have this separate life where I'm like taking knitting classes. Like, I got to have my partner want to do this shit with me, you know? We've got to go to the next phase. And Steve's kind of like, and Miranda's like, we're not old, Steve. And he's like, eh. Now, I get it. Steve isn't old, but he's ready to chill. I don't blame the guy, you know? But he says to Miranda, you know, you're not happy? And you know, she's like kind of asking for a divorce. And he's like, what's happy? You know? And he's like, listen, we go out. We do our thing. We talk about the kid when we get home. We have ice cream. It's nice. He basically said the last few years have been the only fucking peace I've had because this whole relationship has been so up and down. And then he said something very powerful, and his acting was great. He's like, you know, you've spent the whole time thinking I'm not enough. And then you decide I'm kind of enough, and you stay. And I've been sitting here the whole time just fighting for us. And I'm like, that's fucking right he has. And he didn't say it angrily. I think he should have been like, you fucking awful person, but he didn't. And then he's like, but I'm too old to fight. So if you want to go, and I don't think that was a bad example of I'm too old to fight. He wasn't saying like, I'm an old man. It was just like, yeah, 55 is too old in this context of the relationship to keep fighting. You know, it's like justice for Steve. Oh God, hope he finds someone. Anyway, but the writers of the show were interviewed in Vanity Fair, and they're like, I know there's been a lot of criticism about how we treat Steve, but don't worry, he's gonna have his moment where he's gonna tell Miranda how he feels. And I think this was that moment, and I'm like, wasn't harsh enough for me. I think he should be like, I am good enough for you. In fact, I'm better than you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've always been a judgmental bitch. You didn't like me because I was a bartender. Like, what are you so fucking great? Nice high tops. Nice haircut. You know? Like, you didn't even know how to drink a glass of wine. I had to teach you at the bar. I took you on a honeymoon, and I wanted to just snuggle with you the whole time, and you're on your shitty flip phone. Like, I've always been better than you, Miranda. And I'm going to get a fucking life. And I'm going to live it all over Manhattan. And you're going to regret it. And I'm going to fucking love it. But he wouldn't do that. He's a nice person. Anyway, so Miranda calls Carrie. And she's like, I did it. We broke up. And Miranda is manically giddy in the back of a cab telling Carrie, we broke up. And I'm like, oh, I know this. I have ended relationships that I was not happy in, where I felt like I defined myself, and you start acting a little crazy. You just like, the endorphins are going. You start dropping weight. People are like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm manic now because I ended a relationship that wasn't working. Maybe I'll take a surfing lesson. You know, that was me. And then you calm down, but then like the first person you're with after that, you're like, I'm in love with you. Hello. And everyone's like, you need to relax. And like, what do I need to relax about? That's where Miranda is right now. And it's thrilling because I don't really see this stuff a lot on TV. And so she's in the back of a cab and she's saying to Carrie, my life is a rom-com. I'm taking a cab to the airport because I'm going to surprise Che at their show. And she doesn't say comedy concert, which is pissing me off. Why did the writers drop comedy concert? You gotta give me something to hate. This is a good episode. Give me one comedy concert. I'm going to meet Che at their show. And Carrie's like, okay. And Miranda's like, ah! And I'm just, you know, and then the episode ends and I'm like, oh no. You know Miranda is going to walk in to the show and Che is going to be finger banging someone on stage or something. Oh my God. Or she, you know, she's going to walk in on Che and Che's like Cleveland side piece or something. Wouldn't it be great if Miranda walks in on Che in their hotel in Cleveland and Che is there with like the Cleveland version of Miranda. Like Che has a weird fetish for like 50-something lawyers with like, you know, sort of mild sense of style. Oh my God. I am literally in suspense. Like I have not been in suspense over this show since never, I guess. And wow. And I'm like rooting for Che to break Miranda's heart. But I don't blame Che because Che was trying to say, I'm not traditional. Hello. You know, Che didn't say, oh, go dump your husband and then come to Cleveland. Che didn't say any of that. Che was just like, I love you. I'm not traditional. You do your thing. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, all right. I wish Che had been this person the whole time. I mean, they made Che to be kind of like a dick. And I think people going forward are going to go, I don't like what Che did to Miranda. And I'm going to go, no, what they did was entirely right because they're just living their truth, you know? And I think we just need to see Miranda have a major come down. But I think this would be good for Miranda because she will come down from this love buzz and realize, no, it was the right thing to leave Steve. I needed more. But fuck, I don't know what I need. You can't just transition out that quickly, you know? You don't just meet someone and be like, I don't know, I'm doing this. It's just, I mean, you can, but those things don't always work out. And why not give yourself more to explore, Miranda? Anyway, wow. I am just like, I'm back. I'm in it. I mean, I know this whole recap probably wasn't as funny as other ones, but that's what happens when they do a pretty good job, you know? So there you go. Let me know in the comments where you're at with all of this, if you're watching, and tell me what you want to happen with all of the characters, and we'll discuss. All right, gonna go refill my tea and deal with those potatoes.